At 1 p.m. HST, I know where I will be. Ukulele Underground Podcast for you and me. Aldrine and Aaron and Kahai. And maybe Magic Mike or a guest on the fly. Ukulele Underground Podcast. Now here's the guys.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Ukulele on the Ground podcast. My name is Aldrine Guerrero. Joining me are Mr. Aaron, the voice. Nakamura, say what's up, Aaron.
What's up?
And Mr. Kahai, the legend. Fergan, say what's up, Kahai.
What's up?
The boys are here. It is Monday, 1 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. That means it's time for the Ukulele on the Ground podcast. What we do here is you guys ask us questions. We answer them as best as we can. I'll come up with my 2 cents. Aaron and Kai will come up with their 2 cents and we'll come up with the best 6-cent answer just for you. So anything ukulele related, life, whatever questions you guys got, financial, right? Like law, like you want legal advice, we can do it all, right, Kai?
I shouldn't make like a lower third or like
not a lawyer.
Advice from
No. Just preferably ukulele questions. I mean, we can take outside questions as well, but what we always say here is we don't give you guys answers. We give you guys opinions. These are opinions based on what we've learned throughout the years of playing ukulele or just living life in general. So whatever you guys have, just ask away. You know what I mean? Like if we don't know it, then we don't know it. We're pretty honest in this show. We don't make it like we know everything, right? And this show is live. This is the Ukulele on the Ground live podcast. So all of you live viewers, there's a chat where you guys can ask questions, ask away over there. If not, just kick back, relax, and enjoy the show. Or if you want to make a friend, you can say hello to somebody in the chat. Very, very wonderful, welcoming people there, right, Kahai?
Yep. Yeah.
Right? No one teases anybody or puts anyone down or anything like that, right?
We're probably
not in this show.
We're probably the worst offenders.
No. It's all rainbows and butterflies in this show. We hold hands and sing Kumbaya.
Is that why you guys come back to the show?
It's a bunch of masochists like coming in. Okay. No, for real, guys. We will answer any and all of your questions. Before we get to the questions, before we get to all the advice and all that good stuff, we just want to mention, we have to say this at the top of the show, next week, time change, right, Kahai?
Yes.
Next week, time change for not just this show, but all the shows that we have here on Ukulele Underground, okay? This show usually starts, just like today, 1 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. But starting next week, this show will be an hour earlier. It will be at 12 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. So mark your calendars and mark your planners. Plan around this show being 1 hour earlier. We apologize, but that's just how things are. We have to do things this way. Okay? 12 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time is the new time for the podcast. For those of you folks who are UU Plus subscribers that on Monday come down and do the live coaching. Next Monday, that will change as well. We usually do it at 11 a.m. Now we're going to be doing it at 10 a.m. It's just 1 hour pushback. That's all. So 10 a.m. for the UU Plus live coaching. And then 12 o'clock for the for the podcast, because any and all of your questions on the live coaching gets answered within the hour and a half at most, and then it gives us a little bit of time to get ready for the podcast, so that we can get briefed by Kahai. Like, okay, he brings us our scripts, right? And then he goes, okay, Aldrine, you need to say this. Okay, make that Rocco joke. Yeah, and my Rocco joke, and then and talk about wrestling here in minute 15. It's all scripted.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Let's change up the pacing over here, guys. Add in another
This is a teleprompter I'm looking at right now, and that's how I'm reading my lines. This is a scripted show. I'm sorry to break it up to all of you folks.
Ruin my immersion.
Right. Now let's get
Trent in the chat recognized your shirt.
Oh, hey.
So,
Hey.
Yeah.
So, before we get started, let's talk about the shirt. There's this and, hey, Rocco's model. That's the Rocco shirt, basically, is what it is. It's hilarious that, like, I try to look for the most nerdiest, but not that loud, doesn't explain kind of shirts. I was wearing this shirt, and I was wearing, like, a shirt from One Piece, the Luffy shirt from Dressrosa. Like, I think I wore it to this podcast, actually. And that's one of those things, because I'm not Like I just wear it just like a normal shirt. I'm wearing this like a normal shirt, but I'll get people like, "Hey man, like nice shirt," or whatever, you know. Like I've gotten tons of comments on this shirt, and then whenever I wear that Luffy One Piece Dressrosa shirt, they're like, "Oh hey, nice shirt."
Nice shirt, but then
But,
not.
yeah.
Only like a select few that actually say they know.
Yeah. It only takes one for me. Like if one person recognizes like the shirt, it's a win. I mean, it's already a win if someone's like, "Man, that's a cool shirt." I'm like, "How if you only knew."
Yeah.
You know?
We must be hitting somebody's like Venn diagram of like wrestling, 90s cartoons, and ukulele.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my gosh, was this made for me? Made for me specifically?
Nice. Yeah. Emperor Kabir in the chat said that was a hoot.
That was a hoot. That was a hoot. See, I love it. It's
If you know.
yeah, $250 well spent on this shirt. No,
You know,
it's like $30. Box Lunch. Boxlunch.com, I think, is where you can get it.
as much as I love like the people who go like, oh, I like your shirt because I know what the reference is.
Yeah.
I like the people who are like, I do not know the reference, but I still like your shirt.
Yes, that's what I'm
Or-
talking about. Like I go to, I went to my show over at Oasis, and I was wearing that Luffy shirt. Everyone's like, "Man, nice shirt." But there was one guy who he was the host, you know, like in the front, like try seating people, and you're like, "Hey,"
His eyes got big,
yeah,
and
he's
it was
like, "Oh my god, it's a One Piece shirt."
Yeah.
And then like he's like, "That shirt's from One Piece." And then as I left, he's like, "All right, see you next week, Mugiwara." I was like, "Oh, not only did you recognize One Piece, but you called me by the Japanese name for Straw Hat." You didn't even say by Straw Hat, by Mugiwara, which is straw hat in Japanese. I'm like, oh, I don't care what else happened that day, you know, like my highlight was right there.
It's like level
And you wouldn't know, right?
Yeah,
Just looking at that guy, you wouldn't know.
because it's like level one is
You
like
gotta get to know him.
Yeah.
is like calling you Luffy. Level 2 is Straw Hat.
Yeah.
Level 3 is like maybe throwing in a Nakama in there or something.
Yeah, you're
And
in Nakama. Yeah.
and then throwing in that is like, whoa, that guy.
that guy, very nerdy, very fast.
You know? Yeah.
He's so cool.
He drew the Straw Hat sign in the sand, and I knew it was a fellow. He's a fellow pirate. Oh.
Not even that. He put 3D2Y or the cross out the 3D. Oh yeah, or the yeah, that's right. The X.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. He's just got way too nerdy. All right. First 10 minutes, well spent.
No
First
ukulele here.
Yeah, no ukulele talk here. That's why. That's why we have rubber bands on our on our microphones, because we only give, you know, like the most in demand answers, and we only talk about the most pressing of all issues. Like, for example, the Super Bowl yesterday. Happy belated Super Bowl to all you folks, and the team that won, congratulations, go you. Go team. Next, Kahai, let's talk ukulele. Yeah, the one that played football, the one in the red.
Yeah.
The red team won, right?
Yeah.
We like sports. And we don't care.
But ask me about the Australian Open and about Yannick Sinner. I'll tell you that in detail.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, let's get started, Kahai. What do you want to talk about?
I think Aaron wanted to pose a question to our chat actually first,
Ooh.
right? And then as the chat is sending in their responses, we thought we would get your take too.
Okay.
And then so the question is, what was like, and for the chat, for you, it's what was the first major roadblock you ran into with ukulele? And for the chat, maybe it's like, what was the first, or what is a current roadblock you're running into with ukulele?
Yeah. My first roadblock was there's not enough roadblock. No.
It was too easy for
Everything
me.
was so easy. No, of course not, you know? I don't know, because like I can interpret that in many ways. Like, what was the roadblock as far as like technique goes and stuff, or like things that I was learning, or was there a song that, you know, that was a roadblock? Because for me, the biggest roadblock is actually finding people to play with, to be honest with you. Like that for me hindered my my learning of the ukulele more than any technique that I couldn't do, or more than the song that I couldn't play and stuff.
Wait, so like, what time in your life or
Yes,
what
okay.
age or
Yeah, let's get into it.
It's kind of set
Okay,
that
so
scene.
I first picked up the ukulele. You know, I talked about picking up the ukulele at like church and stuff. There's like a church lady that had it, you know, taught me surf and whatever. And so I want to say fourth grade, you know, like when I first picked up the ukulele and learned how to, you know, how to play this. So in the fourth grade, 1994, like 10-year-old Aldrine Guerrero,
Yeah.
like
So you
first picked up the ukulele.
You were learning just basic chords,
Right.
Like, did you have like a chord chart? Or
Yes,
something?
because I played it for Silver Lining. I was part of a group called Silver Lining, which is a music group here on Kauai, and I was like kind of learning through that. But you know, like kind of like how I talked about before, we only really played Polly Wally and like and like You Come My House and you know like those kinds of songs. Very like easy like elementary school music group kind of songs and stuff. And that was all I had, you know, and everyone else had like was learning Kyle Crater Boys and whatever. And my dad and parents and family wasn't really into like, you know, they were super Filipino. There wasn't like they were listening to like the cool new island thing or whatever. So I didn't learn about the Kyle Crater Boys. I mean, or at least I didn't get an album till like way later when my dad's like, oh, he's really interested in this ukulele thing. I should maybe like look into getting some ukulele albums. But I heard the kids talk about it. I heard the songs and stuff like via the kids playing it. So that's why I consider that my first roadblock, only because like I was, you know, like really interested in the ukulele. All I had was this beginner songbook or not even it was just I had the chord chart. You know, like the all the possible chords, like, you know, that is played in the ukulele. I could kind of like go over like, okay, cool. Here's how to play this chord. But the songs in that songbook weren't really anywhere outside of CFG or maybe like a D in there or whatever, GDC. It wasn't anything outside of that. So my biggest roadblock was just not having the the material to work with or like you know, and for me, I was like, and I was a kid, I thought I was like really good because I could play the whole book basically. The whole book was just CFG or GDC, right? But you know, whenever like I would want to play with the other kids, it's like, hey, let me jam with you. I heard of this song called You Don't Write, you know, like, and as sad as it may be, because I didn't like. I didn't want to bother my parents to like, you know, to get like that album or whatever, or I didn't have time to like really like listen to the radio and get that song down. I would just I remember now this is tripping me out because I've not thought about this since I was 10. I remember hearing the kids sing that song, but really nothing stood out other than You Don't Write. Na 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 na. That's it. So I didn't even hear the second part of that, you know, that phrase or that, you know, like that verse or whatever. I just go da 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 da. So I looked at the chords being G, B minor, and C. That's it. I thought You Don't Write G, B minor, C, and that melody line. And at home, I would just make up my own words to You Don't Write, and I would play You Don't Write at home with my own made up whatever lyrics. And I probably have it in my old like kind of notebook that I just used to write stuff in. And that's just how sad it was. Like it was just like me in my room alone, like playing my version of You Don't Write based on what I remember, because you know, like they would play the song, but I wouldn't really like, you know, they wouldn't show it to me or anything. Like no one wanted to play ukulele with 10-year-old Aldrine Guerrero that didn't know
no
anything
chord sheet.
outside. Yeah, you know. So for me, that was the biggest hurdle as far as like how do I get better at this thing. I guess you could say resources, you know, and like and people to jam with. And one of my best advice for people now learning the ukulele is gobble up as much resources as you can. You know, like I think it was Brian Tolentino that said that you can't learn everything from one school. So now that like, you know, we have the internet and knowledge is in our fingertips at all times, like you just consume as much of this as, you know, as you can, or as you know, and I think a lot of that, you know, is when you play with somebody or when you find like a tribe of people to jam with, that's when you just skyrocket as far as like learning the ukulele. Because when I first played with Kaniho, who we featured in this month's play along, that wasn't until 8th grade. So 4 years I was playing ukulele, and I gave it up because I was just like, I was frustrated. I couldn't really play anything, you know. It was like 8th grade when Kaniho showed up, and he showed up at school with his grandpa's kamaka, and he's like, "Oh, I'm learning this thing," and I'm like, "Awesome! I kind of know how to play that, you know." Like, so we started learning together, and by 8th grade, I had access to like, you know, and my dad has like introduced me to like local music and whatever, so I was more exposed to it. But playing with Kaniho, playing every day, like having somebody to figure these songs out with and figure out techniques and chords and how to play and singing and stuff and performing them every day, like at the bus stop, like that's what made everything skyrocket. But what I did differently was I didn't stop playing. You know, Kaniho, like, I guess as soon as he came home, he had friends that to go play with. I did not. I had my PlayStation 1 in my room, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to put on these CDs and I'm just going to play in my room like all day, figure out all that stuff, because you know, I now had access to these things. So like I used that to kind of level up, you know, my own playing. So when I'd go to school, and that's why Kaniho at one point didn't really want to jam with me either, because he's just like, I thought we were doing this together. I'm like, yeah, but you know, like I'm learning and then I'm teaching you like what I learned, but he wasn't kosher with that, you know, like he just
the gap became too large.
And he just felt intimidated, I guess. I don't know, we need to bring Kaniho in and ask him about a million things.
His side of the story.
But that's it, and that's why, like, in my wallet right now is the first dollar I ever made playing music, and that is $1 I made sitting outside of Suyoka's store in Koloa. Like, buy Crazy Shirts. You know, Crazy Shirts next to Suyoka's store. Me and Kaniho were playing our ukuleles there. Some nice tourist came by and gave us $5. We and back then, you know, 2 burgers cost like about 3 something, you know? And then so we're like, this is perfect. We have $1 left. We signed it with, you know, we both signed it, split it in half, kept, you know, like kept one. Each one kept one, and he still has his also. So that's, you know, I think having somebody to play with you, or having a group to kind of, you know, like to just have fun with, it makes learning more fun. And I gave up because it just wasn't that fun anymore. So for me, that was the roadblock. But if you guys want more of a traditional answer of like, what technique or what song was the roadblock? My first ever roadblock was Guava Jam. A friend of mine named Troy Lagazzo taught me Guava Jam because he was one of those kids that like in 4th grade didn't want to jam, but I knew didn't want to jam with me at least, you know. But
he knew.
I started kind of getting better. I started getting kind of better, and he's like, let me show you this song. So he showed me Here's a Lay, which like I got down, and he's like, let me show you something a little bit harder. So he showed me Guava Jam, and like that stretch of, I remember that stretch was my first roadblock, because I just couldn't get my tiny 8th grade fingers to get that stretch. Was that
what is that fret? How many frets is that?
It's like from, you're barring 5, but your pinky is hitting 12, so it's like a 7 fret stretch while still keeping this like clean bar on the 5. So you hear all 4 strings should be clean. So if we're going the traditional way and asking me like, what was the song that like first got you stuck, you know, or what was the first song that I got stuck in? It would be that. It'd be Guava Jam, and that exact moment right there was the was where I got stuck.
And then so what did you do to actually get
just practice. Like that's honestly it. You know, just go back to the woodshed.
Why is that always the answer?
Just go to the woodshed, you know, like and really just grind it out. Like, you know, there was no, like, I didn't have the internet or YouTube of like, how do I play this, man? What is the best way to do this? It's just, just going in and doing it for like 6 hours a day, you know?
Do you know if like you could play if it came to a point where you could play everything else, but just that stretch was hard for you? And it's like
good
so
question.
you just like played everything up until the stretch, you tried your best, and then you just kept playing, right? Did you learn everything else, or like?
I don't remember the details, but there wasn't any other stretches in that song other than that. So I'm assuming that I could probably play the rest of it.
Yeah.
You know, like, but and even then back, you know, it's not like Troy Legazzo taught me like the exact notes with the exact right hand, you know, like he was just like, okay, it is gonna go to the 7, 5, and then the 3.
Yeah.
And then he's gonna go to a G7. That's kind of how he explained it. So it was up to me to do like what was here on the right side, or like the the technique and stuff. He's just like, it's gonna go 7, then 5, then 3, then go to a G7. Then you're gonna stretch the G7 to the 5, 3, 2.
So to figure out all that other stuff, it was just listening to the album.
You're just like you're kind of remembering what he says, but then you're remembering what it actually sounds like, and just kind of comparing it.
I remember going just like fooling around with it, of just going.
Yeah.
I was doing it like that, and then kind of listening to the album, because I mean, a lot of like the Troy Fernandez stuff, because it's finger picking. I'm not sure that my finger picking on the right side is 100% accurate, but it is accurate enough to like, to pass. It's passable because there's no tabs back in the day, and it's not like Troy was gonna come over to my house and taught me note for note how those songs went,
Yeah.
It's funny. The two Troys, the Troy Legazzo and the Troy Fernandez. no, let's not get it confused.
I think that's important too, like as far as your progression, like learning how to hear notes and stuff, because like in the beginning you can only really recognize major chords, right?
Yeah.
And then you play major chords that kind of sound like if they're playing a minor, you play a major chord that sounds close enough, and if it works for you, then you know, and then you learn like what minor chords sound like, or like how to hold minor chords, and then you can do that. But
back then I had zero like music theory knowledge. So I actually didn't do music theory until past like 9th, 10th grade with Mr. McIntosh. Because maybe 10th grade, because 9th grade I just took his class and stuff, and then we were doing scales. I didn't know for God knows what. I was like, you know, like why are we doing this, you know? But 10th grade, I remember like joining the jazz band, and they're like, "Oh, scales," you know, like
that will be helpful for your playing.
I played saxophone, alto sax for the jazz band. I'm like, that's why, you know, like this, like that I've been doing this whole time. Those are the notes to the song that you choose from, you know, like so. It wasn't until I started improvising that it kind of clicked, that like and then in jazz, like of course you should have the chord knowledge, like this is that chord, so you should know the chord tones within that, and that's the notes that you play. So based on that, I'm like, hey, those are the notes that I play in ukulele. You know, like if I'm playing in C, like, you know, like those are the chord tones in that chord. So I'm like, a chord, that sounds familiar. Chord, ukulele chord, like things kind of just, started to connect, and that's when I was just like, now I want to consume everything like music theory, because now it makes sense to me. Like, and I would go to Mac's office and be like, hey, do you have any resources on this and soloing? And of course Mac is like, awesome, my saxophone player wants to learn more about like these like these techniques and this like advanced theory and stuff. I'm like, yeah, your sax player wants to learn more,
but you were applying it to ukulele.
To ukulele instead. And I dropped out of the jazz band because ukulele was much more fun.
I think it sounds like, because like even when you said that you try to learn you don't write, but you could only remember you don't write, na 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 na, like you could only remember that, right? Not even the words.
But I used to sing "You Can't Write." I thought it was "You Can't Write." I think I've told you guys that before, right? Okay.
Well, and I have like the same where it's like the cats are away, and then I used to think it's katsu, right? Like, oh, chicken katsu. But Aaron, Aaron, didn't you like say that you were like going on a trip with your family or like in the car for like a long time, and that's when you figured out like the first picking song you figured out or something by ear? What song was that?
I think it was Hene Hene Koaka from the Is album, the Facing Future album. And I had it was like the first CD player that I ever had, and we were going to like every summer my family would go camping at Anini. So between my house in Kapa'a and Anini, which is maybe like half an hour. Like I just like replayed it and then tried to figure it out on my ukulele. And by the time we got to the camp,
you got it down.
I had like the one note, like single note, like picking. Like I'm pretty sure there were multiple notes in that. Something like that, something simple like that. But I was so proud of it. Because like I guess my cousins were learning how to play ukulele too. And so just to be able to show them that, it's like, who taught you that? And it's like, me.
I taught me that. Yeah.
But, and that was like it was like the CD player that didn't have the anti-skip technology too. So it was like,
nobody move.
I was trying I was in the back of the truck with all of the camping gear with my ukulele and trying not to make my CD player skip and then rewinding
no anti-shock yet.
Yeah.
Because I remember like my first song that I learned, like it's not even like the picking, but just like the melody, right? Was Hawaiian Superman. And then remember, like just hearing the da 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 da, and I figured that out on the A string. And then and I showed my friends, and I'm like, isn't this cool? Like you can actually play this picking part while you play the chords too, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I think for all of us, that's like how we learned. And now it's like people are just like, oh, I'll just like look it up online, find a video, see how they play it, watch how they play it. And like for us, like our instinct is to like listen to what we're playing and hear is like, is that the right note or is that the wrong note? And so it's like people who learn, I think, more visually, they don't necessarily build that up. So they can be playing the wrong note, but they're like looking at sheet music and they think like, oh, I'm playing the right note, right? Like my fingers should be where they are, but they're not like listening to themselves, and they're like, am I playing it right or wrong? And that's like, that is like a great skill to get, I think, pretty early on if you can. It's just like figure out stuff by ear and hear if what you are playing matches with somebody else.
So what, are we doing a disservice to the ukulele community by making so many videos?
No, I think the play-alongs are like, if I had play-alongs like back in the day, then like, because you have your favorite play-alongs you want to play along with, but it's up to you to like either play it to the T or like or add your own stuff in there, because even in the play-alongs, like especially now the play-alongs that we put out now and stuff, I mean, you guys will put out the chords that I'm playing, but I'll like add little things in there. Like it's up to you to kind of listen in and you're like, oh, what was that? Instead of going like, hey, on this, on this verse and this song, you did something like this. What was that? Like instead of just doing that, like go listen and try to figure out what it is that you heard. Try to recreate that, that moment. That's what we used to do back in the day, and that's how I developed my ear for music, and the chops came after.
Yeah, I think that's a very local feeling, right? We make that joke like just press. But that is like legitimately like if you go to like an older local musician and you go like, oh, how do you play this like one riff or something? They go, I'm not gonna sit here and explain it to you. You just gotta press. You just press. You put look at where my fingers are and look at where your fingers are. Does it sound the same? Okay, good. If not, then oh well. Like, you just try again next time. You know. And it's like I think people like we get people who are like, oh, but shouldn't I like have all the information first before I dive into trying it? And it's like, if you can just dive in first, like you'll get everything else later on. But getting that experience is like really important. Just whether it's like you're playing it right or wrong. Because even like when you're playing Guava Jam, right, and you're trying to bar that, like that's important too. Is like playing bar chords and making it not sound good.
Yeah.
When you like know that you're like, I'm not holding the bar chord exactly right. Like eventually you just keep doing that, and one day you'll probably be like,
something will click.
I got it. Like I figured it out. And I think for all of us, right, like it's not like we remember the specific day, but it's just like over time. It's like,
Yeah.
I knew I played this bad until I stopped playing it bad, and it started coming out better. You know?
Well, I still play bar chords pretty bad, but I can pinpoint on my finger where the string should be. And like I know already, like I can imagine the feeling, you know, where the string should be on my finger.
I just thought about it that like if I was 10 then when I first started, about like 10 years old, this year would make 30 years of playing the ukulele. I would have started playing the ukulele 30 years ago. So, yeah, wow. It's been...
And you started teaching other people before you were 20. So.
Yeah, because I was in high school, and I was teaching... Byron Hahn was my first student. Byron Hahn Morin. And, you know, I remember his mom kind of like hitting me up and saying like, oh, can you teach my son or whatever, like, and she saw me because in high school I would get involved with like the Mokihana festival here on Kauai and stuff, and out of like Mrs. Nestel's like Hawaiian music club, I was like the representative that would go and they would see, and I guess she was like, oh, can you teach my son how to do that? I think Byron must have been I don't think he was any older than maybe 9 years old,
but he was interested.
He was interested in ukulele. He had chops too, and that was the thing. Like he was my first student, so I was in high school, and I basically just unloaded everything on him. I taught him everything that I knew, and this kid came, really good because afterwards I went to college. Like after I graduated to college, and I came back to teach over at Waimea High School.
Yeah,
and he went to Waimea in that high school.
Yeah.
So like I remember seeing him. I'm like, hey, man. And then just like when I came back, he was performing at like the Mokihana festivals,
cool.
and he was doing like all these things. I was just so proud, you know. And then like, I remember like I don't want to like bad talk somebody like that can't respond. I mean, rest in peace, like. But I remember his classmates would be like, so you're the guy who taught Byron? It's like, well, can you tell him to tone it down? Like, well, what do you mean? Because I guess because he got super good and he took lessons from me, he'd just be like, try to outplay everybody, trying to be like the best player and stuff. But he's like, I don't even do that. I'm like, I don't know. I'm just like the messenger, you know? Like the people, that's just what people have been telling me. But, he was a really, really, really good student, and that's kind of how I fell in love with teaching, because I had a really good student at first. So he was like a sponge. He took everything that I taught him, and he became really, really, really good at the ukulele. I think at that point might have gone at the same level as me, like when I moved back. But I did learn some from college, and I was writing stuff already. But I think if I taught him and unloaded everything that I learned, he would have been like same or better than I was. But unfortunately, Byron one day got into a motorcycle accident and passed away, so couldn't really see his prime. But I think had he lived on, he would have been like an absolute monster of an ukulele player. And like it was perfect because in this time now with like technology, because by the time I was doing like MySpace and all that stuff and posting and whatever. I got like some fame through that, but I missed out on this influencer like social media. Like,
so he would have been.
That's right. He would have been primed for that had he lived on. But unfortunately, that's just wasn't in the cards. And that's how I fell in love with teaching, actually, because my first student was just like was really good, and I thought all students are gonna be like this, right? I'm like a really good teacher. No, it's just that the student was like really good.
I think that is the thing, though, right? It's like you said, like with you and Kaniho, right? When after school, like Kaniho went and like played with other people, and you're just like, I'm just gonna go to my room and play along with CDs.
Yeah.
And it's like I feel like if like your love for something is like that strong, it is like things that should be like roadblocks end up just becoming like, well, what's my best solution to this? I can't play with people live, so I'm just gonna play with recordings, right? Or something.
But that's why like I was joking in the beginning, but there was a little truth in it where like there wasn't roadblocks for me to like, and it wasn't so much that I was so good that I didn't have any roadblocks. It's just that it just wasn't available. Like, learning songs to give me roadblocks just wasn't available. It's like, oh, you think it's so good? It's like, no, if you're playing CFG all day or GDC all day, and that's all you have, that is all had in front of you, there's, I'm going at 90 miles per hour,
Yeah.
It's no roadblock.
I can understand, like, people now, like, sometimes we'll get questions like, hey, how do you play this song? And we're like, oh, did you, like, look up online if there's anybody else who teaches it? And they're like, yeah, there's, like, nobody else. Mm-hmm. And I remember, like, trying to learn, like, punk songs or stuff, like, when I was learning guitar, and there wouldn't be, like, tabs or something. And then it's like, well, since nobody else is doing it, like, I guess I'll just figure it out myself, right?
Yeah. I like this song. I don't care if anybody else likes it.
It's
yeah,
like,
man.
It's hard, but and like, how do you figure out a song by ear? Like, if it comes down to it, I'm gonna play every single note on my fretboard as the song is playing and try and like compare. It's like, is this a right note? No. Is this a right note? No. And then it's like, that's where it's like, in hindsight, it's like what you could have seen as like, oh, those were roadblocks. It really is like just like, no, they're just like things that happen that I overcame.
It's challenges that you need to that you need to do in order to get better, in order to level up, in that way. And yeah, man, like I remember now that you mentioned like learning songs that you wanted, because at that point where I was kind of like consuming everything possible, I was like discovering people like Herbolta Jr. was was in his prime, but at that point the Pure and Simple album just came out, and I love that album. And the album before that with G Minor Fleas, like, just blew my mind. And then like Pure Heart came out, and like there were ukulele players, but there weren't players who could play that stuff, and I'm like, that's it. Like that sounds so cool. But then the songs that were popular from that album, of course, Bring Me Your Cup, and You Came Into My Life, and Crazy Without You. And that's all that people really played. I mean, maybe some of the other stuff, but that's it. And then the Europa track was there, and I was just because I like to just listen to the whole album as and that Jake's Prelude comes up, and I'm like, what the F what is happening?
Yeah.
And my mind blew, and I'm like, how do you play that? And low G, I couldn't, but I figured out the
Yeah.
and like, I'm just like, oh man, this would sound so much better if it was like low G. Play that on a low G. And I remember just him playing that song, like one entire instrumental, but it wasn't like, like how Guava Jam is just like melody, where like this is melody, but then like he goes outside the melody and comes back and plays around the melody and comes back. And I remember my dad like coming in, he's like, that's a Santana song. He knew it,
Uh-huh.
And I was like, yeah, I mean, isn't it awesome? He's like, you should learn that song. You should learn that song, And it wasn't because it was popular. Like, I didn't learn it because it was like what everybody is playing or whatever. It was just on that album, and I'm like, and I'm on Kauai. I don't know like what kids on Oahu are playing, but no one was playing anything like Europa here on Kauai.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just like, if I learn that song, I'm gonna be the belle of the ball, man. You know what I mean? Like, if I learned Europa, and to this day, I still play Europa because I love it.
Yeah.
I don't play Europa because it's like, oh, this is really gonna wow them, or this is really gonna, like this is the pinnacle of whatever. No, I play it because I still play it because I love it. I still play Body Surfing because I love it. Because the next album that Pure Heart had, boom, Body Surfing. I'm like, what is this? And I talked about like picking it up at Borders by the time because it's track number 6 on Pure Heart 2. So I'm driving, and it's 20 minutes from Borders to my house, 15-20 minutes, and as soon as I was coming down the hill going to my house, Body Surfing comes on, and it's one of those rare times that I parked in my yard, and I just sat there let the whole song play. I'm like, I'm not waiting to get into my room with the PlayStation 1 and putting this album in there, and I will, but I'm finishing this song because this song just blew my pants off. I walked in my house pantsless. You know what I mean? Embarrassed. I'm just like, hey, sorry, I was listening to this really awesome song, everybody.
Couldn't help it. It wasn't my fault.
Blew the pants off me, you know?
Listen to this and you'll be pantsless
yeah. But no, not all the way, because I listened to it all the way pantsless. Maybe just the first verse, you know?
Yeah, and then
just the zipper and the button will come off. That's it, you know?
Go into the room with the headphones, and then you can experience the full song. Yeah,
but you know, it's because I love, and those are songs that I grew up with, and a lot of people are like, you know, what is it about our show that there's just something about it, you know, like the people who've watched this live and stuff, and it's because it is all the songs that I fell in love with as an ukulele player, and I'm just like repackaging them and presenting it to the audience in like a 1-2 hour show, you know, and it's just like, so these are like Aldrine's greatest hits, basically is what I'm doing, you know. But good fun. Well, what are people saying, Kahai? What are people's roadblocks?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up that too, is that several people said that they kind of agreed with you where it seems like their roadblock is also finding other people to play with, you know. So it's like, what would you suggest like for that, you know, if you're having a hard time finding other people to play with?
Play with play-alongs. That's what I did in my room. Like I played with the CD. The CD was my play-along. That's how I got better, you know? Like if I couldn't find anybody else to play with, then I just will play by myself. And I didn't have that was my roadblock because I didn't have I didn't have a PlayStation at 4th grade and it didn't exist, you know? Like and I was too ashamed because I'm Asian to ask my parents for anything, you know? So I didn't have like my own CD player or tape player or whatever back then. And I just did everything from memory, and I just played from that, you know, limited resource that I've had. But now everyone has unlimited resources and unlimited play-alongs, and that's not just from us, but from like, you know, everyone who does teaching on YouTube now. That you guys, you have a friend to play with, like that you carry around in your pocket on your phone. You know, you want to jam with me? Like put on one of our play-alongs. You want to jam with Cynthia Lynn, you want to jam with, you know, like with Ukulele, with like all these amazing people, you can do that now, you know. And like especially if you live in the mainland, like ukulele clubs are everywhere in the country, and so finding somebody to play with is not as hard as it was back then. And I think ukulele is so mainstream now that like finding somebody to jam with is as easy as just kind of putting yourself out there, you know. And the thing is, if you don't, who cares? Just play, you know, play along with stuff online, and that's just as good. Anything is good, because although I was playing with Kaniho, you know, we were kind of learning it made it more fun for me. That's really what it is. But you know, I would still go home to the woodshed and learn on my own. But then he made learning more fun. So you can get better, but it doesn't necessarily get more fun unless you share it with others. You know?
I feel like that's life.
With anything, you know, with anything. Except for Monster Hunter. You know what I mean? Like, I hate... Can I get 2 minutes to talk about Monster Hunter real quick? Okay? All right? Okay? All you people who play Monster Hunter, Monster Hunter is supposed to be like a fun game for 4 people to tackle the monster. But it's not fun if people don't know what they're doing. And then I cart and I die because people don't play their roles enough. So what do? I just get overpowered and just kill the monster by myself, which is supposed to be meant for 4 people. I have more fun not dying, but playing a harder monster on my own than playing with others. Because others make it not fun. I don't like grinding for something for 2 hours, only killing it one time, Kahai.
Okay.
That sounds like...
Hey, Craig. It's okay. Me and you can play Monster Hunter together. We know where the weak link.
Yeah, I have to kill the monster and carry my teammates. Like, come on, man. Okay, enough. It's my 1 minute of Monster Hunter.
Somebody in the chat, I don't know, I don't see it now, but somebody was saying that my biggest obstacle is I'm too good. That's basically what you said, right?
It was Emperor Kabir. Current Roadblock.
In Monster Hunter, that's it. I'm too good at it. You know? I'm too good at Monster Hunter. And like,
Sorry.
it's heavy. My back hurts carrying my teammates.
I think, or to add on to that, it's like I was telling Aaron that it's like, or I was, you know, talking about one of our students, and it's like, I don't know if he's ever experienced that, like playing music with somebody else, and both of you are like in sync in the groove, you don't even need to know what like chord is gonna come up, and you just know like my hand is gonna move to the right place and it's gonna be there, and it's sounding so good together. Like you're just living in that moment, and it's like you doing that in person feels so good.
Yeah,
right.
It's
like,
rewarding.
Yeah, and I feel like if people experience that, they would be like, "Oh, I'm hooked on music. That's why I love music."
Yeah.
But
do you get the feeling of from that movie Soul?
yeah,
I didn't see the movie.
You didn't see the movie Soul?
Oh, sorry, my Pixar friends.
Pixar?
Yeah, I know.
Like,
They're like, what?
Yeah, you should probably watch it.
Sorry, my Pixar friends. I still love you. I still want to visit.
yeah. There's a clip where he's like doing what is it like he's trying out for the jazz band, right? Like a specific jazz band. And then, like, at first he's like, "Oh, what chords are we playing? What are we doing?" And then they just start playing. And so he just has to jump in. And he kind of gets into it. And he closes his eyes and he starts playing. And he's just, like, going off. And the rest of the band stops playing. And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I got too lost into it." And then they're like, "You got the gig. Come back."
Okay. You got me. I'll watch it tonight, Kahai. We'll talk about it on Friday.
Yeah, like the visuals that they put into that movie are like pretty accurate.
Okay, all right.
As far as like, you know, when
Soul wasn't something that they were into. So.
Yeah, Kahai recommended it, and then I finally watched it, and then I was like, yeah, they encapsulated the feeling, and yeah, it's just like. Because I was telling him that pretty often, it's actually during Europa, I can pretty often get into the zone, you know, because we play it, you know, and we try to sync up.
Yeah.
But it's when you let go, and like
that's
I'm
when
like,
you mess up.
I'm close. No. If I'm overthinking it, that's when I mess up. But like usually I can like let go. I can like just kind of close my eyes, get into the groove, and my fingers just move to where they need to be.
Yeah.
And then I'm more focused on like where you're going. And then if Kaniho is playing with us, like where he is in relation to you, and I'm sitting like right in the middle, and it's almost like surfing that wave, you know?
Oh, dude.
And so it's like, in my brain, like my eyes are closed. There are like colors that come up. There are like, you know,
cool.
So
cool. I was gonna say that like you mess up when you let go of like the synchronization.
Oh,
like
yeah.
So when you go off sync, that's like when you because you overthink it, you can't overthink it, you know.
Yeah.
And
as soon as I think of like what actually are the chords? Like, you know, that if that ever comes up in my brain, that's when I mess up.
Same, like, what are the words of the song?
Yeah,
but
what
if you
are the
just
next words?
if you just go and sing it, like it'll just come out.
Yeah,
you know, like you're just so in tune with it.
like people can actually find this is like we're doing the songs made easy class. And we're doing Stand By Me, and I brought in my bass to play the bass line, right? Because you're explaining the bass line is part of it. And I was playing it, and I know at one part I was playing it and just playing it, and I kind of like just started like I wasn't in the zone, I was zoning out. Like I lost track of it. And I was like, oh shoot, like am I on the right beat? You can kind of hear like I go like and then I gotta rethink it again. So I feel like even when you're in the zone and when you make a mistake, that's when it's like you're like, oh, that's a little mistake that just happened and I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm already on to the next thing. You're like really in the moment. And I was gonna say that like playing with people, you get in that, right? Like it's different and you can experience that. But I feel like you could get like 80-90% of that just listening to a recording and trying to play along with them too.
Especially if it's a live recording.
Yeah.
If you listen to people playing live and then you try to groove with them, that's helpful. That's like a helpful practice.
Yeah, because I'm like remaking the chord charts for our jams. And as I'm doing that, I'm like also like playing it and like figuring out if I can like improve the chord charts or how do I show like what chords they're going to be playing. And sometimes I'll start playing along and then I realize, dang it, I didn't write down anything and I just ended up playing the whole song. It's like over by the time, right? I'm like, I was just like in it and I just played along to the whole song.
I want to bring up that like I feel that happens when people rely on, because we run an ukulele club, you know, and when we show the music with the lyrics in it, and if people are not in tune to the song, like the song itself and the groove and stuff, and you're just reading the lyrics and waiting for the chord on top of the lyric. Because in like we use ultimate guitar and like sometimes it's wrong. You know what I mean? Like it's not on the correct whatever and
syllable.
You just feel the music and like, does it feel like it changes there? Then if it doesn't, then don't change there. Then change where you feel like it's it's changing. So Aaron brought this up in a conversation that like we played Electric Slide.
Only two chords.
Yeah, it's two chords. And the two chords will basically change the same every time. There's that groove. That groove doesn't change, throughout the whole song, right? So, there's the lyrics, and of course the chords is not placed in the correct lyrics 100% of the time. But it was nice to see people catch on to that. Where like, just trust the groove rather than trusting what you see with your eyes. Trust the groove. Close your eyes and just play the music.
Like listen to yourself, listen to what everybody else is doing. And if you're in time with them, you're playing the right thing. It's like you can just get lost. It's like, okay, I don't need to worry about what's coming up or anything. Yeah, and I think like you bringing up the lyrics thing is like sometimes it's not wrong. It's in the right place, but it's just everybody pronounces things differently. So that timing can be different for you.
It's true.
If you try and match it up one to one, you can be like, I can't.
True.
It's weird switching. Because like, if I make a chord chart and I make chord charts for like Ikolu or something, right?
Yeah.
How they sing a song is totally different from like how the original people sing it too, if it's cover. So they're good guidelines, but you shouldn't take it as like absolutes. Like I gotta follow this one to one too.
No, unless you're running a very tight ship on Monster Hunter, and you do have to do what you have to do, Kahai. If the healer's not healing.
Where is that comment again? That is just for a Roadblock. I'm just too good.
Yeah, just being too good. Being too good. Like if your blade, go cut the tail. What are you doing on the head? Right?
I want to do the flashy move.
You want that sweet DPS.
I don't care about the material. I want to do the flashy move. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do some questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Rosemary said, "Would you please describe the technique of bending and the difference in sound, when and how you decide when to use it?"
Okay, bending. So what it is when you have a string, right? So see here, the A string, okay? The A string reacts to this string being, up to a certain tension. That tension makes that note the A note, okay? The combination of this string, the width of the string, and the size of the ukulele, all that stuff matters when playing that A note, right? So bending the notes is not whenever you play a fret. For example, if I play the C note here on the 3rd fret, I am changing the position where that string starts, because right here technically it starts on a 0, right? Place my finger here on 3. That's now the beginning of the tension for that that string, and then ending right here. Okay, that's what changes the note. So if you play a bend, say I'm bending the 5th fret, that's not only am I changing the note to D, but if I bend it up, what I'm doing is I'm increasing the tension on that string, therefore making the note change. Okay, so that's what happens. That is the technique of bending. You're bending the string to create more tension, therefore changing the note itself. So instead of it just having a D, you can make it as sharp as far as you can bend it. Okay, so usually, we want to play within the scales. So if we're playing in C, notice that C, D, E, right? So if I were to bend the D notes in my C, if I'm playing in C, I'm not going to bend it to this note, because that's not. So if I go, sounds cool and stuff, but if I want to stick to the scale, because this sounds like a minor, like a C minor, rather than. Note is the same note as this. Okay? Now, how do you do a bend? So for me, when you're fretting notes, you use your fingertip, okay? So I'm using my fingertip. I like to play 2 frets behind that. So I like to put 3 fingers down for any kind of bend. For most bend, maybe not any, but most bends, I try to put as many fingers down as I can. I like to use my ring finger for most bends because that allows me to take my other fingers and help that bend, because it doesn't really matter if my other fingers are behind it when I do the bend, right? Doesn't change it at all. The change that it does do is it helps you bend that. So, I mean, my ring finger is pretty weak. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really do anything with my ring finger. So, asking for my ring finger to push up and create tension on that like really tight string is going to be kind of difficult. So having 2 fingers support that ring finger, and notice my thumb is up here. So I'm doing this squeeze. I'm trying to squeeze into a fist. Okay, so my thumb is up here. You can kind of see it from there. So what I'm going to do is basically try to create like a fist with my finger. So that ring finger is there. 2 other fingers helping it and kind of supporting. Thumb goes here, and just like a duck dive in surfing or body surfing, duck dive is going from the bottom, and if the wave is coming like this, you want to duck underneath the wave and come out on the other side. You kind of have to do the same thing. You're going, imagine scooping that string, because that string has to be on your fingertip. Okay, so if you're just lifting that string, a lot of people say they can't do it, because if you just lift the string, then see what happens, it slides to the pad of your fingers rather than your fingertips. So if you try to do this and fail at it, it's because that string is going to slide down to the pad of your fingers rather than your fingertips. So if you go fingertip and then try to scoop it down and up, notice that it'll stay on my fingertip. Okay, so scoop, go like into the fretboard and up. So here, I'll show it to you from this direction. Into the fretboard and then up. So, and use your thumb and use the supporting fingers to do this bend. And you can even see like my forearm like being engaged.
Because it's like
it's this, you're squeezing, right?
clenching your fist, but it's like you can't close it all the way because the fretboard is in the way, basically, right?
Yeah.
And so it just ends up.
Yeah, and a lot of people just do. So it's not the same. Which is fine, but you want to get that note. So for example, if I were to do the very famous bending riff. That's Eric Clapton's Wonderful Tonight, okay? So, if you were to like bend it and it just reaches this note rather than this note, because the note for it's in the key of G, right? So, meaning is 3, 5, and 7. So it's like full steps from, 2 whole half, right? Whole half. So if you're here and you're trying to bend that A, you're not going to bend it halfway because it'll be an A sharp, which doesn't exist in the key of G. So you don't want to go. Because you're basically doing. Which doesn't make sense. You're trying to hit this note. In order to hit that, you have to go up pretty high. About right here. So it does matter, how much you're bending that note, because it's going to be the difference between the right note and the wrong note, depending on how much you bend that note for. Okay.
Yeah, and you're gonna like if this is your first time trying to bend it, you're probably not gonna hit that note, or you might overshoot it or something.
I know people hate hearing that answer. Like, what do you mean practice? What do you mean you practice?
Because with that, you really have to rely on your ear to hit the right note, right?
Or
you don't want to go.
And it doesn't really
sounds off.
Like if you were to use a slide, it doesn't have that same effect either, right?
Yeah, so you go. You'll get the right note, but it's not that same dramatic effect of.
Yeah, and you can really it's a little bit more expressive because with the slide it'll die.
Yeah, because with the bend, I mean, it's called a bend because the note is bending, its way up to a new note.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas the slide is you're just sliding it up there. Bend, you can hear the tension going up and then therefore the note going up.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess too because you're using a fretted instrument.
Yeah.
You don't get all of those microtones.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
So,
if you were using a fretless instrument and you did a slide,
yeah.
it might sound closer to a bend. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and I think so the other part of the question was when do I know when to play it, or how what's the right moment to play it, right?
It's another tool in your toolbox. I mean, you can get to notes in many ways depending on what tool you use. For example, there's tools techniques, right? So there's a hammer, there's a pull, there's a slide, and there's a bend. There's all these different techniques. You use whatever's appropriate. I'm not gonna tell you that you use this every time this scenario happens. No, it's up to you, the player. That's what's fun about about playing ukulele. Techniques are just part of the language that you use to say things, to communicate with your instrument, right? So you can basically go that's even with a little bit more more technique in there. You can totally omit the technique. You're sending out the same sentence, or you're sending out the same message, right? But the way that you said it was different, or you're using different grammar, or you can think of it that way. Where I can't tell you a definitive answer of this is when you use bends, but it is one way to to make the note higher. That's one when you would use it, and you can do a pre-bend to make the note lower. So what I mean by that is you don't have to play the note and then bend it up. You can bend it up without the note, so you can lower a note. You can pre-bend it. So if you're doing, you can do instead of, you can do. It's just ways to communicate using your ukulele. Techniques are just ways to increase your vocabulary.
Yeah, I think it's just you try it out with whenever you feel I can do a bend here or something.
Yeah.
But then also just look at songs and look at when they use bends, and then copy it along and try and hear why would they prefer a bend over here rather than to a slide or something.
Yeah.
And if you think about it that way, it's they're probably trying to add in tension or add in
feel. There's all these things that that has to kind of make sense, because you don't want to just bend every note or whatever. Use the bend to add a little bit of style, a little bit of flair, a little bit of technique to a phrase.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I feel you could try playing a whole song with bends and stuff.
I guess,
but you would be I'm pretty tired at the end of it. That's why people don't bend every single note. So yeah.
Okay, let's do a couple more. We haven't answered questions the whole time. Yeah. He's been talking on and on about Troy Lagazzo and Canino. Go ahead.
Okay, I know Yoda earlier asked if you could kind of explain one of the flourishes you add to your strumming is a flamingo strumming. You make it seem so natural. What does the best way to describe that to practice that strumming?
the best way to practice any kind of strumming is to just kind of first feel the groove with your hands, like, and segment the grooves. Okay, so if you have let's take the same song, Wonderful Tonight, right? So it's late in the evening. That's how it's strummed. Wondering what close to it. That kind of roll thing that that I'm doing. You can overdo it, and knowing like how much and when to do it is going to make a big difference here. But take that, follow the groove, just like how we do in Aloha Friday Live Jam. Pick out the just the most bare bones heartbeat strum of that. It's one. It's late in the evening. And just imagine that you can, like that's the whole pie, right? Just two halves in that, just 2 and 4. And then like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Or 1, 2, that's it, 3, 4, 1. And then you can segment it even smaller, as in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And then you can segment that even smaller at like a 1E and a 2E and a 3. So my mind, I always, make it into the smallest possible segment for me to do, because it allows me to add those things in there. If I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, I only have 2 opportunities to add things to that, to that strum, right? So if I'm doing a heartbeat strum of 1, it's late in the evening, and if I go, it's late in the evening, it wouldn't sound good either. So, but if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of, So by doing that, by taking the small segments and knowing where you can put it in, and then making it smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and knowing what kind of techniques to add to the small segments, that's how you practice.
Yeah,
like advanced kind of strumming. That's how I do it. I always think of it as 1E and the 2E and the 3E and the 4E, and no matter how slow or fast the song is, like I try to take it to the smallest possible like segments that I can, and I'll just play with the segments, either like doing that roll, doing a chunk, doing like adding ghost notes here and there. Like there's all these things in the tiny little segments that I try to fill in, and that's what makes my strum whatever it is me trying to groove. So you can think of the roll, you can think of the chunk, you can think of normal down up strums, and think of technique as like a different portion of a drum set, and you're just trying to create a beat, trying to create a groove with your right hand.
I think like when we tell people this, we tell them like, do it and then try and see if it sounds good to you. And if it sounds good to you, then keep doing it. If it doesn't sound good to you, I think people are like,
you at least know what doesn't sound good.
Yeah. I think people are kind of like afraid though, right? Yeah. They're like, I'm afraid to like even try it or something. And that's kind of like something that, like talking about like figuring out songs and doing all this stuff. All of it you can brute force basically. Mm-hmm. So if you're not sure like where should I roll or where should I bend, that is where you like brute force, and you do you try that pattern and you do every single downbeat with the roll, right? And you just see like which one sounds the best to me, which one sound matches with like either the other people playing or which one suits my personal taste. And whatever works is like, okay, I like that one.
Yeah, I just feel it out.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, and then it's like the same thing with notes too, even, right? We're telling you like build your instinct of like, does this sound good or am I playing the right thing? Is like you play the wrong notes like with the whatever is the recording or other people, and you don't want to be obnoxious about it and be like trying out every single thing when other people are playing live. But if you can play along to a recording, it's like, go for it, try it out, and then it's like if it doesn't sound good to you, then know that it's like, okay, I'm not gonna keep that one. But if it does sound good to you, then it's like, oh yep, put that in my pocket. And I don't know if it's the perfect time or if it is exactly right, but I know that I like that, so I can have it there, like I can pull it out whenever that seems appropriate or when I feel that time comes up again. So one
last one. One more.
Oh yeah. So Wishes for Farai said, how much did you practice every single day to learn picking, or at least nearly perfect it?
Oh, nothing's perfect. You know what I mean? Like, if you guys watch any of our Aloha Friday live jams and stuff, I think this past one, no, like 2 weeks ago, we were doing like Strawberry Fields, no, or something like some kind of
Lucy in the Sky.
Lucy in the Sky. I was like, I should watch them. Or I did 1, 2, 3, 4. I think last week, and you know, like nothing's perfect, and it's all about having fun while doing it. But if we're talking about how many hours I practice in order to at least get pretty good, like at picking, I've said this before, but you know, if you're a new listener, back in the day, and I'm talking about what I just described earlier, when I was kind of jamming to CDs in my bedroom in my parents' house when I was 10, or not 10, but say ninth grade, 15, 14, 15. So I quit for a little bit. 14, I was practicing at least 5 hours a day, 4 or 5 hours a day, every day after school. On the weekends, anywhere from like 5 to 10, 12 hours like that day. And I'll just be locked up, CDs like all over the place, you know, just playing entire CDs and playing every single song in them. It doesn't matter if it's a Hawaiian, you know, local Hawaiian music album, if it's a traditional Hawaiian album, if it's like a rock and roll album or whatever, because I listen to pretty much everything, and I would try to figure out everything and anything that I can get my hands on.
Yeah. I think too, one thing that we say now is that there's a difference between practicing and playing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so with practice, like you can probably hit a limit of like maybe an hour of practice at the most where you're going to retain anything new.
Yeah.
And even like we'll recommend 30-minute practices to really make sure that you get down whatever you're focused in on.
Yeah.
But then for the rest of the time, it's like, don't limit yourself to how much you play music. You know, if you're playing or trying to figure out something, or, you know, just having fun with music, then do as much of that as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 14, 15-year-old Aldrine, come home from school on a bus about 3 o'clock, 3:30. Dinner would be about 7, 8 o'clock. So like anywhere from that. As soon as I get home, like that's it. Lock the door, just jam out like as loud as possible. So I guess there's really no sense to the locking the door, because they can hear. It's very thin walls in that house anyway.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So.
What would be your advice to someone who doesn't have that much time to like dedicate to learning?
I don't have hours and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, just play whatever you can. And like Kai said, my advice is to separate playing and practicing. When you practice, you want to like really get better overall at the instruments, and then there's playing where you just play songs on the instrument. You have fun with it, you know. So if you dedicate like even at 15 minutes like a day to, you know, to learning the ukulele, learning a few chords, learning a scale, or learning a key, or, you know, we talked on and on about like how to maximize practice. Yeah, so basically just you know, take whatever 15 minutes you can, segment those, you know, and like, okay, I'm gonna do 5 minutes of warm-ups, 5 minutes of technique, 5 minutes of scales, whatever, you know. That's it. That's practice. So separating practice and playing your ukulele is really the key to getting better at the ukulele, no matter how much time you have. It can be 10 minutes, you know. You can do like 2.5 minutes this, 2.5 minutes that, 2.5 minutes this, and 2.5 minutes that. However much time you can afford to dedicate to the ukulele. It doesn't have to be hours, you know, in a day. It can be as little as like 5-10 minutes, you know.
Yeah. If you have a really nice ukulele, that's kind of like what we also say is like, it kind of benefits to have like an ukulele that you can just leave out, and it's like, I'll pick up whenever I have time, and I just put down
on your way to the kitchen. You just like stop by, grab it off the couch.
Yeah, you just jam.
That's why you said you like the fluke, right, Aaron? It's because it's like, because it's flat, you just put it on the ground and it stands up on its own built-in stand.
Yeah, I'm like cooking and it's like right there. Yeah,
but like a friend you can jam with.
It's just there. Yeah.
I think,
like for practice too, like if you zoom in on like something that you're stumbling over and then just repeat that, like I think that's considered like you're playing the song, but it's like considered practice, because like I'm having trouble switching from this chord to this chord. So I'm just
Yeah.
like in time, just trying to do that.
Yeah.
That one switch over and
Yeah.
over, or that one part of that riff, like
Yeah.
a very small segment of that riff that I'm having trouble
Yeah,
with.
imagine it like a knot. There's like a knot that you're trying to like untie. Like, you got to just keep going over and over and over it until it
Kinda
unties. Yeah,
loosens,
loosens up.
and then-
Because like sooner or later something will click. Like, I'm doing this wrong, or like, this is why, or I don't know. I just started doing it and just started clicking for some
Yeah.
reason. Like
Yeah.
that'll just like loosen up the knot, and then you're on your way to everything else.
Yeah, a lot of times too, it's like if you're doing picking songs, because like I've been trying to learn bass,
Yeah.
and like one of the things that is tough is like you're moving from like lower frets to higher frets.
Yeah.
Anytime that I have to move from lower frets to higher frets, I always stumble, just because like that's I'm not familiar with the fretboard, and like you have to really
Yeah.
sight where you're gonna go, like where you are. You have to put your eyes on where you're gonna go,
Yeah.
and you have to make sure your fingers land there in time, right at
Yeah.
on the right beat. And so like if you just practice that transition, like it'll make it a lot easier.
I think another part of it too is like what we said, where it's like limit yourself to like 15 or 30 minutes. Because if you're spending time on something, like if you're woodshedding and you're spending time on one particular thing, and you feel like, oh, it's going well, I am like loosening this knot, I'm figuring it out, then yeah, you don't have to be like, oh, but 30 minutes is over, I gotta stop right now.
keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, go with the flow. But
Yeah.
if you're like,
Getting frustrated.
I still don't get it.
Yeah.
Like some
Throw your
people,
on the wall,
we talk to people where they're like so like dedicated, or they think like, oh, I gotta set like this and I have to get this before I move on. It's like sometimes you're just not gonna get it. You're just like not in the right headspace or mood. And so taking that 30 minutes to dedicate it to that, but then going like, okay, tomorrow I'm not gonna try and do this again. I'm gonna move on to something new, so that when I come back, maybe I have that better perspective or something to help me get past that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like important too. It's like, don't be so hard on yourself, I guess, too, right?
Yeah. Wow, this episode was like a podcast, or like a normal podcast where people talk about stuff and then like answer questions.
We actually talked about ukulele
Yeah.
for a
Wow.
little bit.
This feels nice. Is this what that feels like? Like a sense of accomplishment that like that the episode was like not bad, Like
Guys,
just make fun of the audience all show long.
we gotta do that, right? Like right before we end, because like that's what we won the award for, right? We're the heel.
I started to think about it, like maybe we are definitely heels still, but like I think I'm most heelish on Fridays. Or like you know what I mean, where it's like it's kind of too fun, where then that's where I start to kind of like have too much fun and start insulting people and their requests. And I don't know, just things that they say. Like, why would you say some of these things online? Yeah, I've been online for a long time, Kai. I've nothing but Teflon skin now. I'm one of those old school like internets people that like you can say whatever you want. This doesn't affect me at all. Yeah. And if I see something, I'm not too proud to go and make an apology about it, right? As we've seen. Right?
Yeah.
Do I need to make an apology video about messing up 1, 2, 3, 4 this past Friday by playing white tees, Kahai? Should I apologize for that?
I think the plain white tees are so disappointed in you.
Yeah, or just I think the people that watch our show, they expect a certain level from us, and I just did not meet that level, that they expect from a quality show like Aloha Friday Live Jam.
Yep.
And for those people, I apologize. See?
Oh,
it's not hard, not hard, Kai, not hard.
Yep.
Not hard. I will be better. I will use this as as a way to learn from my mistakes and
the next
to grow.
The next time 1, 2, 3, 4 gets thrown up on the wheel, we'll just skip it instead of trying to play.
No,
like that's the lesson.
It's against the rules. It's against the rules.
Okay.
All right. Well, it's been an overlong episode, but people aren't complaining, right? Are people complaining about this episode being too long, Kahai?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, then that's that. I mean, if it is, you can just listen to it later, like again, I guess. But thank you so much for tuning in to the Ukulele Underground podcast. We are from the Ukulele Underground, as the name suggests, ukuleleunderground.com, ukuleleunderground.com. Learn yourself a song or 2 or 20 or 100. We have it. We have that many songs, right, Kai? 200?
Yes.
300?
I think so. Like just about,
snap.
just over. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we have tons and tons of songs, and you can learn, techniques. You can learn songs. You can listen to a podcast, us talking about ukulele. You can make an ukulele friend via the forum, via the Plus forum, or the regular forum.ukuleleunderground.com, which is bumping if you guys want to check that out. Also, if you want more, we definitely have UU Plus or UU Plus. If you sign up here at ukuleleunderground.com, UU Plus is the way to take your ukulele playing to the next level with some premium videos. We talked about how to solo, how to improvise using scales and stuff, or maybe if you want to get better at your fretboard, you can do all that stuff, right? That and more over on UU Plus. Plus, you also have access to our full archive of everything that we've ever done. You can go check that out. Then when I said, you can basically gobble up all the all the ukulele things that you can. This just ukuleleunderground.com alone, poof, you have a full belly all year. So just sign up for the year, and and sign up like 10 of your friends, and then those 10 friends sign up 10 friends, and then we can get rid of the rubber bands and stuff. Then we can actually have funds to get proper equipment, right, Kahai?
Yeah, the rubber bands is the first thing that we're gonna change.
Yeah, definitely not anything else, because nothing else is wrong, right, Kahai?
Nope.
Everything's running smooth and perfect here.
Yep. Okay.
We'll see you folks next time. Have a great one. We'll see you guys on Friday. Yeah?
At a new time.
At a new time. Yeah. That's right. This Friday we talked about the new time earlier in the show, but this Friday, new time, 12 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time for the Aloha Friday Live Jam. Jam along with us. You Friday, 12 p.m. Aloha. Enjoy your week.
And 12 p.m. tomorrow.
12 p.m.
Or not next week.
Next week. Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah. Next week, Monday, 12 p.m. Don't forget. I'll see you then. Aloha.